One of the critiques you hear a lot about modern comics is that they're being written for people who don't actually buy them. This is, I think, too casual of a statement. It's too easy. It's cheap in that sense. It's a junk food answer to a more complex problem. But there is some truth in there. Let's kind of examine this statement, what it means, and who are buying comics, who is there today, and maybe get to the bottom of some of this. Hey everybody, this is Perch. One of the things, and it's I don't like kind of what feel like slogan statements, this is my own personal preference. I'm not saying you should like them or not like them or anything. This is my own personal opinions. Everybody has pet peeves. Mine tend to be things that feel like bumper stickers. I don't like I hate when I see those things kind of bandied about because to me it never feels like the person behind them is really thinking about what they're saying. They're just kind of regurgitating some slogan. And whether that's whether it's political, it's like "Make America Great Again," that one, or whether it's hope, kind of the Obama. At least Obama kept it simple, like one word, hope. He was efficient with the English language there. But in comics, it's things like "Go woke, go broke," or the old adage, the one I did a video about it, like it's not for you, or if you don't like it, don't buy it, or these kinds of statements. Now, there's often some truth to all these statements. I'm not saying that, and some people didn't quite get that from the other video I did. There's truth in everything. It's just these surface level statements. They really don't have enough meat in them to really kind of paint an accurate picture. And so I think that it deserves more attention. It deserves kind of. I think most people can digest depth. So I think it's preferable when people actually put in the work and give the depth. I think that's a better way to go. But this idea of comics are being made for people who don't buy them. It's an interesting one because on the surface, your first thought is, why would anybody do that? That's insane. We have a shrinking audience in a lot of cases. It's getting harder to reach people. We have a ton of competition out there in terms of media and entertainment. So why would anyone waste any time making comics for people who, are just not going to buy them? And the easy answer, if you ever kind of debate this out with somebody, is like, well, they're trying to get, score virtue points with this kind of, unknown group, which sounds fine, I guess. The problem with that is that, virtue points don't keep you employed, and they actually don't do a good job of giving you much recognition. It is easy to say that, amongst themselves, they kind of promote themselves and keep each other in work and all the rest. But that only takes you so far, and it's not far enough. There's this whole kind of, C class of celebrities. Now, granted, some people have the self, realization that they're never going to emerge beyond C class. And so they just kind of, find ways to get comfortable staying there. And to those people, I say, well done. You're self-actualized. You've kind of figured out where you are in the world and you've made peace with it. So, okay, well, good for you. But most people want to achieve more. They want to make more money. They want to achieve more fame. They want to be more well known and everything else. And it can't be that there's just this massive group of people that's so deluded about how this all works that they would keep just trudging along doing the same crap over and over again. You can make that argument that would work for a year or two, but when you're going on year 10 and nothing has really happened to you, you have to kind of start to admit to yourself, things have gone off track. In a lot of cases, I think some of these people, they're doing the best they can, meaning, the content they're producing isn't great. And it's not because they're deliberately trying to sabotage it, or they're deliberately trying to appeal to a quote unquote, a woke audience or something. And they know they're doing bad, but they're trying to appeal to some unknown group that's going to, do something for them at some point. I don't think that's the case. I think that's I have a hard time believing that's ever the case. I think in some cases, these are people doing the best they can, either from their own abilities or in the environment they're working in. And I think there's cases to both. I think in some places, if you are a kind of in-depth, very detailed, nuanced writer who really excels at doing a 200 issue comic run, then Marvel is not the place for you because the institution itself doesn't want that. It seems to discourage that. Either your comic's going to get relaunched, you're going to get bounced from issue to issue, or your editor's going to get involved. I mean, there's just always something there. But the days of you having a Claremont like run, or even a Busiek like run like he did on Avengers is over. That's not going to occur in Marvel. So there is a case where the company's getting in the way. And in some cases, it's people who, or maybe they've got good ideas, but maybe also they're willing to work for very cheap and they've had no mentorship or editing, and we're seeing the best they can do. But back to the original kind of topic, are comics being made for people who don't buy them? Well, I mean, you could dissect this many different ways. I mean, the first argument is, not many people are buying comics, period. Forget about, who. It's the overall market has shrunk. So using that logic, a lot of comics are getting made for people who aren't buying them because people aren't buying comics. The price point's too high. The place where they're sold is too obscure in a lot of cases, and they're not mainstream mass market products anymore. The other argument is that, because there's not enough money, I think this is a valid argument. Because there's not enough money in the industry, and because the definition of success in some cases is a very low bar. And this is where comics start to feel more like marketing. It's like, hey, we've got a Birds of Prey movie coming out. So therefore, we're going to want, another Harley Quinn title, and we're going to want a Black Canary title. We're going to, we need to tie into this movie because that's important. Why is it important? Nobody's asking that question. Maybe it is important, maybe it's not. But that question tends to get overlooked. So it's people decide it's important. And then it trundles along and some titles are made, but they're not really titles anyone, was asking for. They're not titles that anybody did any research about. There's no clear sign that there's a market for any of this stuff. It's just, somebody said, hey, a movie's coming out and we need to tie in with that movie. So, give me a comic stat. And so the quickest possible kind of regurgitated thing comes shooting out the other end. And that's what we've got. By the way, somebody's going to talk about how Birds of Prey was a terrible example because a comic was wonderful. I like Jimmy Palmiotti and I know he did. I'm pulling something out of the air. The point is a movie is being made and we want to have a tie-in. And so we commission a tie-in, but nobody really cares that it's being made. Nobody really cares about the end product. The goal is get a product out, not get a good product out, get a high selling product out, get a product out that, is going to meet the needs of the fan base. None of those criteria are part of the goal. The only goal is, shove something out. And I think that happens a lot. I know it happens a lot in comics. I talk to editors and it's like, here's we were told we had to do this. It's like, why? Well, because it was important to have synergy with the movie division. Why? I don't know, because we needed to do it and I'm paid, $45,000 a year, so I don't care. F it. My goal was to just get this comic out as fast as I could and, get back to watching Gilmore Girls. That's my goal. I think that's unfortunately, that's a lot of what's going on in comics. So the part I'll as I'm dissecting this statement, I think where some people come in to it is they believe with their hearts that the big publishers know there's no market. They know that this audience that they're chasing doesn't actually exist, and yet they're shoving these comics out anyway because they're trying to make a political statement or an ideological statement to say, this is the comic you should consume, and if you don't like it, screw you. We're gonna publish it anyway, and we're not going to publish the things you do like because we hate you and. Neener, we own the IP, so, F off. And that's, and I wish that, by the way, some comic pros would digest that this is something that people really do believe. And then I would like for, I think they should ask themselves, why is it that this has become a sentiment that a lot of people believe? This isn't just a few people. A lot of people believe what I just said is what's happening. And for the record, again, there's no real data to support that it is. It's hypothesizing an output, but it doesn't really wash with facts and with what's happening. And in some cases, it's like, what is the Sherlock Holmes statement? It's like sometimes the easiest answer is the correct one, or the most straightforward answer is a correct one. The most straightforward answer is what I just said. There's not enough money in comics. There's not a lot of attention to some of these things. They're just cranking them out, and they're doing so because they're told to. And the quality of the comic books is really very secondary to to the goal. And so that's what's happening. And that is maybe a sadder answer, a more pathetic answer than there being some kind of in-depth plot to create an ideological shift through comics. But it's also the correct one. It's it's much easier to often cite a lack of care as a result of something than some kind of in-depth conspiracy, which is where a lot of people go. More exciting. I mean, we are comic book fans after all, so it makes sense that we go there, but it just doesn't necessarily fit. So overall, like I said, and by the way, I'm picking at a statement. If you use this statement, no problem. I'm not telling you what you should say. People come into the comments and say, oh, this is, Perch, this is you telling people what they can say and what they cannot say. No, keep saying what you want. I'm trying to explain, one, why this statement kind of irritates me, and then two, kind of look into some truth behind it. And again, nothing comes from nowhere. There's reasons why this statement is out there and people believe it, and maybe we didn't get into that enough. I mean, in many cases, the publishers make people feel like this is what they're doing, and in some cases, I think publishers who are annoyed with this perspective and just find it ridiculous, rather than kind of shutting it down and responding to it with facts, instead choose to almost sarcastically lean into it and thus kind of feed it. Whereas if they just said, you know what, we're making the comics we're trying to make, and sorry you don't like them. Just leaving it like that would be one statement, but in many cases, they'll be sarcastic, be like, oh yes, we're part of the Illuminati trying to bring in the socialist wave of comics. And it's like, dude, don't say that. Like, read the room. People are not into a joke right now. Not that joke anyway, but well, what do you think? So first off, this statement that people are deliberately making comics for audiences that aren't there. Does it bother you? And two, where is the truth of it? Do you think there's any truth of it? Do you think either the statement itself is true, or do you think the perception is true? What do you think of all this? Leave a comment below. Would love to know your thoughts on this whole matter, trying to kind of figure out this divide between creators and fans that irks me to no end. Anyway, leave a comment below. Like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter or Facebook. Send me email at comicsperch@gmail.com. And thanks for listening.